You're listening to the micro version of the Savage Lovecast at savage.love.
If you're stuck in a relationship quandary, or if you're looking for sexual harmony, well, there's nothing you can't ask on the Savage Lovecast.
Well, it looks like Christmas is coming early this year, nearly 2 whole months early, because on November 1st, Hulu is releasing a new documentary, God Forbid, the sex scandal that brought down a dynasty, starring the world's most famous pool boy. That would, of course, be the pool boy, evangelical leader Jerry Falwell Jr., asked to fuck his wife while he watched. And, as we're going to learn apparently when the film comes out, as he filmed. When the trailer for God Forbid dropped last week, Charisma News, the Christian magazine for Pentecostal and charismatic evangelicals, bemoaned this assault on Christian values. Not the assault from Falwell, the assault from Hollywood. Charisma News urged their readers to pray for Jerry and Becky Falwell and the whole Falwell dynasty, I guess. You know, as dynasties go, the Falwells were a pretty short-lived one. There were 5 monarchs in the Tudor dynasty that ruled England, 6 if you count Lady Jane Grey, 15 Stuart kings and queens, 19 Habsburg emperors and empresses of Austria. There were just 2 lousy Falwells. There are used car dealerships in Des Moines that have been in one family longer than Liberty University was in the Falwells' private little fiefdom. A little history for those of you who are lucky enough not to know who Jerry Falwell Sr. was. He founded the Moral Majority in the 1970s, helped make Ronald Reagan president in 1980. The wages of working people have flatlined since Reagan became president, and it is not a coincidence. And along the way, Falwell created Liberty University, kind of a diploma mill for fundies when it first opened, now a kind of legit university for fundies who want an education but don't want to learn anything about evolution. The student code at Liberty University forbids sexual relationships outside of a biblically ordained marriage and even any action that might create the appearance of impropriety. Violating Liberty University's code of conduct, kissing someone, for example, of the same sex or having premarital sex with someone of the opposite sex can get you expelled. Hell, seeing an R-rated movie or listening to rap music can get you expelled from Liberty University. A dozen rape victims sued Liberty University in July of 2021, claiming that the school's honor code, known as the Liberty Way, enabled a culture of sexual violence on campus. School administrators were alleged to have threatened to expel women who reported being raped because they couldn't have been raped if they weren't alone with a member of the opposite sex, and so they had violated the Liberty Way. But the most famous violator of Liberty University's own honor code would turn out to be Liberty University's own president, Jerry Falwell Jr., who became president of the university in 2007 when his father died, and remained president until 2020, which was when people could no longer pretend that Jerry Falwell and his wife Becky were in your typically kind of biblically ordained marriage. They were a cuckold couple, and it wasn't just that one pool boy over and over again fucking Becky Falwell for years and years. At least one other student came forward with allegations and some evidence that Becky Falwell had oral sex with him on campus. This came as a shock. The news about the pool boy, the other allegations, came as a shock to no one who had been paying attention to Jerry Falwell Jr.'s social media accounts. He dropped hints all over his R-rated Instagram. I called it. I looked at Jerry Falwell Jr.'s Instagram account and thought, and said on this show, that is a cuckold couple. And I said so years before the scandal broke. In fairness to Charisma News, they didn't just urge their readers to pray for the Falwells. They did offer some criticism of the Falwells. If Jerry and Becky had studied the Bible as Christian leaders like they are expected and required to do, they would have known that nothing stays behind the scenes for hypocrites. Luke 12, verses 1 to 2. Being a full-service sex advice podcast host, I looked that Bible verse up for you. There is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, nor hidden that shall not be made known. So, basically what Jesus is trying to tell us here, there's no such thing as a private browser history. Even if no one else ever sees your browser history, Jesus can see it. And when he calls out hypocrites, Jesus isn't just saying don't condemn people for their consensual, no one's business but their own dirty sex shit because you've got some consensual, no one's business but your own dirty sex shit going on of your own. I mean, he is saying that, but he's also saying beware those who publicly condemn others. Beware Falwells, basically. Because, as we learn again and again and again, people who condemn others for their private sexual conduct are always, 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 always the worst people. We're going to hear a lot from right-wing Christians after this documentary comes out. I mean, we're always hearing a lot from right-wing Christians. We are never not hearing a lot from right-wing Christians. This is America, after all. But we're going to hear a lot from them about the Falwells over the next few weeks. And they will probably make an effort to distract us from the hypocrisy of the Falwells and evangelical Christianity by trying to make it all about the cuckolding. So prepare yourself to hear a lot about cuckolding over the next few months. But you know who you're not going to hear from over the next few months? Not much. Actual cuckolds. So I asked a few cuckolds I follow on Twitter for their reactions to the God Forbid trailer. The hopeful cuck wrote, "I'm not planning to watch. This is the most honest, amazing, loving relationship of my life, and now it's going to be shown as lurid and wrong. Falwell is just such an awful person, and now this beautiful, amazing lifestyle that has brought me and my wife so much closer and filled us with love and happiness will be fodder for assholes." A member of Cucky Corner wrote, "It's a no-win for our lifestyle. Look, this Jesus fucker acted like he was better than everybody else and had a poor waiter kid fuck his wife so he could watch and then bought the kid a gay hostel. It's the exact opposite of a healthy, consensual, negotiated, non-monogamous lifestyle." Gay Cuckold Hubby had a slightly more nuanced take. "It appears that the Falwells did absolutely everything wrong, but I don't hate the idea that most people will mock the fetish. I'm supposed to feel humiliated when my spouse gets fucked by someone else in front of me. That's part of what makes it hot." Gay Cuckold Hubby goes on, "But I bet a part of Falwell will be turned on by being humiliated on such a large scale by this documentary, which sucks because Falwell is a uniquely evil person and I don't wish him any sexual thrills." So that's what a small representative sample of the cucks out there are thinking about this new documentary. Now let's circle back to Charisma News. As Hulu looks to make a profit off the sins and downfall of Christian leaders, Charisma News goes on, lift up the Falwells in prayer that they repent and turn from their old ways, and that the church leadership of today is protected and strengthened against the enemy who seeks to destroy them. Was no one praying for the Falwells? I mean, before this scandal broke? Seems to me that the head of the country's largest Christian university, a man so quick to condemn others for sexual immorality, and who was so quick to endorse sexual predator Donald J. Trump for president in 2016, he was actually the first big-time evangelical to endorse Donald J. Trump, also the son of a man who founded the Moral Majority and put Ronald Reagan and blowjob queen Nancy Reagan in the White House. Seems to me that that man, Jerry Falwell Jr., was being remembered in prayers by hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people, all his life. There were probably people out there praying for Jerry Falwell Jr. at the exact moment he was watching John Carlo Granda go balls deep in Becky Falwell for the first time. How often do we have to relearn the same lessons? You can't pray away the gay. Honor codes can't prevent premarital sex. And you can't pray away someone else's cuckolding kink, any of their kinks. We can only figure out how to act on our desires in a healthy, consensual way. We can figure out how to express our sexualities, what we want to act on, what we don't, what we want to make public, what we want to keep private, and then let others do the same. And if you don't want your downfall to delight the world, don't be a towering, hypocritical prick about absolutely everything. And this just in addition to the movie we have to look forward to, there is also a book coming by John Carlo Granda, the pool boy, Off the Deep End, Jerry and Becky Falwell and the Collapse of an Evangelical Dynasty. Can't wait to read it, but again, the dynasty thing, the Imperial House of Japan, the Yamato Dynasty, has ruled since 650 BC. That is a dynasty. The Falwells, Jerry Sr. and Jerry Jr., They were just a pair of shitty father-son, God-bothering grifters, which does not a dynasty make. All right, coming up on the micro edition of the Savage Lovecast, tons of your Q, lots of my A, and on the Magnum, Savage Lovecast, which you can subscribe to at savage.love for more questions, more answers, no ads, bonus podcasts. Elisa Wells from PlanCpills.org joins me to talk about the important work her organization is doing in making medication abortion pills available to women who need them wherever they live. And in this week's Savage Love, can an orgasm literally kill you? And can telling someone you love them ever go bad? Be sure to read this week's Savage Love right after you're done listening to this week's Savage Lovecast. This episode of the Savage Lovecast is brought to you by Foria. Foria crafts 100% all-natural sexual wellness products so you can experience deeper intimacy and transcendent moments of sexual pleasure solo or with your partner or partners. Get 20% off your first order by visiting foriawellness.com/savage. That's FORIA wellness.com/savage. This episode of the Savage Lovecast is brought to you by Dipsea. Dipsea is an app full of hundreds of short, sexy audio stories designed by women for women. Get an extended 30-day free trial when you go to dipseastories.com/savage. This episode is brought to you by Helix Sleep, the best mattress for your individualized comfort. Right now, my listeners get up to $200 off all mattress orders at helixsleep.com/savage.
Hi, Dan. I am in my early 30s. I've been married for about 10 years. I'm currently pregnant with my second child. And I had a question about the changes in sex as the relationship evolves. When it started, it was more vanilla, and I'm at the point in our relationship now where I only really like that power dynamic, rougher. I'm also a very strong personality, so like in the bedroom, I like to be very submissive. And my husband made a comment this morning that's gotten me thinking, and I figured I should call into the show. He says, I feel like I'm being brainwashed into being rougher with you whenever we're intimate. And he's like, it's going to be hard to go back to how it was before. And I'm like, but that's the only thing that gets me there right now. And I think it could be hormones or, just the changes in my body. But I wanted to know what your thoughts are about this, because I've really been enjoying the much rougher stuff, nothing, blood or anything like that, but just kind of the release of control and allowing him to take the reins and slight choking and things like that. So if you have any comments, I really appreciate you hear from you.
So when I first heard you say, when the words came out of your mouth, when you quoted your husband saying, I feel like I'm being brainwashed into being rougher with you, my thought was, oh, well, this is obviously a tap the brakes kind of moment. Maybe you're asking for more from him than he's comfortable giving you. Maybe you guys have been doing things in bed. Maybe he's been putting on a performance in bed that he's not entirely comfortable with. But as you went on, it was clear that that's not the problem. You're enjoying rougher sex right now. He's enjoying rougher sex right now. You two together are clicking. The both of you are enjoying the rough sex that you're having now. And your husband is sort of anticipating a problem that may not come. A day when you want to go back to the gentler, more vanilla sex that you two enjoyed together in the past. Well, that day may never come. This may be where you're at for, the next 3 or 4 decades. But we can infer from the way your sexual relationship and sexual connection has evolved that it might continue to evolve. Terry and I have been together for a long ass time. And when we look back over our sex life over the last almost 30 years, there are definitely different kind of eras. There are different phases. There are ebbs and flows. There's tied in, tied out, sort of, us having a lot of sex, us having very little sex. There's also been different sort of power dynamics at play where one of us was really more in the driver's seat than the other, and that shifted back and forth. And certainly more things have entered the repertoire, and as some things enter the repertoire, sorry, I'm putting images in people's heads of the two of us messing around, which is not necessarily welcome. I'm kind of dad around here, and not everyone likes to think about dad having sex. As some things entered the repertoire, other things fell out of the repertoire. The important thing that we've been able to do is continue to evolve and grow together. And that for us has included, allowing each other to evolve and grow, sometimes in directions that didn't involve either of us or the both of us. Terry's been free to pursue sexual relationships without me and vice versa. And what works, the reason we're still together is even if all of our evolutions or revolutions haven't involved the both of us at all times, we've continued to make space for that. We've continued to allow for change and growth and compromise and negotiation and accommodation. And I think maybe that's what your husband was asking for when he said, I feel like I'm being brainwashed, and then followed that up with, he's just concerned that if you guys, if you should want to go back to something a little milder, he's going to be so accustomed to rough sex, and he's come to enjoy rough sex so much that that shift may be difficult for him. That pivot may be difficult for him. Allow that to be. Allow him to say that. Allow him to worry about something that may not come to pass. You can reassure him that even if you want to dial it back eventually, you will figure out a way to dial it to a new place, maybe exploring some new things together that he enjoys just as much as he's enjoying the rough sex now. But yeah, right now, while what you're doing is working for both of you, don't make problems where none exist. Don't stress out about a problem down the road that may not come to pass. Enjoy this and enjoy each other. And congratulations on your first kid and your second kid, and for being an example for other people who have kids, who have young kids, that you can still have an active, interesting, and ever-evolving sex life.
Hi, Dan, Nancy, and the tech savvy at-risk youth. I have herpes. I was unlucky enough to get both 1 and 2. And I've gotten to the point where I'm okay with it. But my now question is, when do you tell that information to a prospective partner? At what point do you unburden yourself and let them know? And I know what you say. The one thing that you tell someone tells them everything you need to know about them, but that doesn't really help me know a good timeline, I guess.
You should tell someone who is your lover, or about to become your lover, about to make love for the first time. You should tell them before you have sex. You should disclose the fact that you have herpes, as so many people do, including millions of people who do not know that they have herpes because they've never had an outbreak, or their first outbreak was so mild that they didn't realize that they had herpes. In most, not all, most people's lives, herpes, which is a very common sexually transmitted infection, passed through skin-to-skin contact. We've talked about it a lot on the show. In most people's lives, people who have herpes, it is not a big deal. In some people's lives, in the lives of some people who have herpes, it is a big deal. And if you know this about yourself, if you know that you have herpes, you should disclose it. Particularly, God, this is going to sound terrible, if it's somebody that you want to see again, if it's somebody that you're thinking of starting an ongoing relationship with. If you don't disclose right away, if you don't disclose before you have sex with that person for the first time, you're kicking the can down the road, a road that becomes narrow and perilous the longer you kick that can down the road. Because if you wait, if you don't disclose to somebody that you have this sexually transmitted infection and you begin to have sex with them, and then a year goes by and you've made an enormous emotional investment in this person, and they've made an enormous emotional investment in you, the stakes when the inevitable comes and you do have to disclose are going to be so much higher. And until that disclosure, you will be living with that tension. The moment's going to come when you're going to have to tell them, if it's somebody that's going to be in your life. And like I enjoy saying, like I like to say, when you disclose something like I have herpes, you're telling a person one thing about you, and their reaction tells you everything you need to know about them, whether they're the kind of person who can have a mature adult conversation about relative risks, about mitigating risks, and about weighing, cost benefit, risk against reward. And if somebody isn't mature enough to do that, probably not somebody that you want in your life. Now, I want to back up and qualify something I said. If it's somebody that you're going to want to continue to see, if it's somebody you're going to want to have in your life, I think to be a purely ethical person, that this is something that you should disclose to a potential sex partner, whether you're going to see that person again or not, whether it's somebody that you're dating or want to date, or somebody that you're having casual, anonymous-ish, nearly anonymous-ish sex with. That said, somebody who goes to a sex party and has sex with 20 people, somebody who has a ton of casual sex partners, nearly anonymous sex partners, not you necessarily, but maybe somebody that you met up with and you're going to have one-time sex and never see this person again. Do they have a reasonable expectation that they are not regularly winding up in bed with, or at the orgy with, or at the sex party with people who have herpes? It is so common, herpes and HPV, that if you have multiple casual sex partners, you are, in a sense, signing up for exposure to these two very common sexually transmitted infections that are passed through skin-to-skin contact. So, you ought to disclose that you have herpes to a casual sex partner that you're never going to see again. You oughta, he said, with a certain tone in his voice. You oughta. And of course, the tone in my voice implies that I don't think you have to. This episode of the Savage Lovecast is brought to you by Euphoria, makers of products for amazing sex, the kind of sex you want to have. Products including arousal oil, clean lube, bath salts, and suppositories. People are literally saying things like this about Euphoria's products. This is a quote. I had a 3-minute orgasm and then a 5-minute orgasm and felt like I was surfing in a perpetual wave pool of pleasure. And another quote, we use Awaken, and when she gets on top, we both come so hard that we see sounds and hear colors. And it doesn't hurt when GQ calls you the best sex product of the year, and Shape says you are the best invention since the vibrator. Now, this is a little personal, but Terry and I tried the suppository, and leave it to Euphoria to make suppositories sexy. They did it. I'm not sure what they put in there. I know there's CBD at least, but they have some serious love potion energy. So yeah, you have my permission to try this. I fully endorse you to go ahead and treat yourself to more, deeper, fuller pleasure wherever you can find it as often as possible. And you can start with a bottle of Euphoria. Euphoria is offering a special deal for our listeners. Get 20% off your first order by visiting www.euforiawellness.com/savage or use the code SAVAGE at checkout. That's FORIA wellness.com/savage for 20% off your first order. I recommend trying their Awaken Arousal Oil and Sex Oil. You'll thank me later.
Hey, Dan. My son is 16 years old, and he just came out about a year ago, and he's been having an online relationship with somebody who is supposed to be 18 years old. He's never met. They don't like to talk on the phone because they're trans, and their voice is deeper than they'd like it to be. A lot of red flags kind of came up with me. You know, red flags go predator.
Predator isn't the only possibility here. It seems likely this person who won't talk with your son on the phone isn't who they say they are. It doesn't necessarily follow that this person is a predator. This person might be catfishing your son. This person might be misleading your son. This person might also be filling a need that your son has right now for some sort of connection. an intimate connection, even if it's online and purely virtual. And in some ways, that online connection, if this person is not a predator, if this person is not asking your son to cam for them, to send them inappropriate photos, to do anything inappropriate, this person might actually be good for your son. Whatever this relationship is, the distance, the fact that they don't meet up in person or can't meet up in person because maybe they're 15 states away, or maybe they're not who they say they are, and so can't meet up with your son because they can't. As this connection fills an emotional need your son might have at this moment for a certain kind of mediated intimacy, it's safe. Your son isn't taking any physical risks. What you need to do as the mom here is make sure that your son isn't sending photographs. Make sure that this person isn't asking your son to do anything illegal or inappropriate, isn't asking your son for gifts or money, isn't asking your son to get online with anybody else. And so I think you're likelier to get honest answers out of your son about what it is that goes on in his relationship. I have some friends that I've made on the internet that I've actually never met in person that I do consider close friends. I text with them all the time, DM with them all the time. We share facts about our lives with each other. And these relationships, and I think you can call them relationships, even though I've never met these people that I think of as very special to me in person, they're important to me. And you can go to your son and acknowledge that this relationship is important to him, and then not try to shut it down or shut it off, but try to draw your son out about, make sure that he knows he can open up to you about what is the relationship like, what it is that they're talking about, how it is that they connect. And then zooming out and with your son having a conversation about being safe, good practices, not to make it about this person in particular, but or no one on the internet should he be taking or sending photographs at his age. And if anyone that he's dating in person or that he's interacting with on the internet, if anyone asks him to do anything that makes him uncomfortable, that he needs to know that he can come to you and open up about that and get your support and get advice from you about what it is that he should or shouldn't do. I remember what it was like when I was gay and sexually active and 16 years old, and I would watch my younger sister be able to talk with my mother about dating, about the relationship that she was in. And this was long before the internet existed, so those were IRL relationships. And I couldn't go to my mom and be out about what I was doing because I knew she disapproved or would disapprove if I'd come out to her. If your son knows you disapprove of everything about this person because they're not someone who can walk into your kitchen and sit down at the table with you and you can get a feeling about one way or the other, like my mom could with my sister's boyfriends, he's not going to open up to you. He's not going to come to you for advice. He's not going to come to you for advice at the moment he may need it most. And so let him have this person, let him have this relationship, and let him know that you're there for him. And you don't have to turn off your bullshit detectors in these conversations with your son, that this person doesn't want to talk on the phone, that this person doesn't want to meet up with him in real life or video chat with him, which may be for the best, is probably an indication that this person isn't who they say they are. Doesn't mean necessarily this person isn't someone your son benefits from having in his life right now. You can be straight with him about the former while honoring the latter.
This episode is brought to you by Dipsy, your place to escape and take good care of yourself. Dipsy is an app full of hundreds of short, sexy audio stories designed by women for women. Here, I'm going to read a few descriptions of the stories that you could listen to. The Local. When Sabrina moved to Ireland, she was ready for anything. Then Killian showed up. So, sexy Irish accent, anyone? Yes, yes, please. Under construction, when Rachel shows up on Lucy's doorstep, it becomes clear she'll be tearing down more than a few walls. Huh? And bound. Maya's new to bondage, but when she meets a master rigger named Jacob, she discovers that his expertise is exactly what she needs in her life. As you can tell, it's radically inclusive. Dipsy has stories for straight and queer listeners, and 56% of the stories are voice acted by people of color, and the voice actors are utterly incredible, I will tell you this much. You've never heard celebrities like this before. Listen to stories voiced by Sarunas J. Jackson, E.R. Fightmaster, and Luke Cook. New content is released every week, so in between listening to your favorite stories again and again, you can always find something new to explore. They also have soothing sleep stories, wellness sessions, and sexy stories that you can read with your eyeballs. Let Dipsy be your go-to place to spice up your me time, explore your fantasies, relax and unwind, or heat things up with a partner. For listeners of the show, Dipsy is offering an extended 30-day free trial when you go to dipsystories.com/savage. That's 30 days of full access for free when you go to DIPSEA stories.com/savage. That's dipsystories.com/savage. Do it.
Hey Dan, 30-year-old West Coast. My doctor gave me a prescription numbing cream so I don't have premature ejaculation. Do I need to tell the guys I'm having sex with that I put the cream on? It feels like a consent issue not to tell them, but I also would like to be able to use it and not have them worry about, or, not know that I'm using it. So just curious if you think that's a consent violation to not tell them that I'm putting the numbing cream on my penis, which goes into their butt.
If a guy who was about to bottom for you had been taking fiber pills, so he had clean and solid bowel movements and he was good and regular and ready to go when it was time to bottom for you, I don't think you would necessarily think he was obligated to disclose that he had been taking fiber pills in advance of meeting up with you so he could be the best bottom possible. If you're using numbing cream and a condom, and so the cream's just going to stay on your dick and it's not going to impact the bottom at all, you wouldn't have to disclose. If, like most gay and bi men now, you're on PrEP and you're not using condoms for anal intercourse, and you're applying this numbing cream shortly before you penetrate the bottom that you'd like to penetrate and fuck good and long and hard, hence the numbing cream, I do think you might want to get out in front of that. I think you might want to disclose that, not because it's a huge issue, but because the bottom might feel it too. The cream that's numbing your dick also might have some effect on his asshole. I don't think a little residual numbing cream getting from your dick to his butthole is going to so desensitize his butthole that he won't be able to give you feedback in the moment if he's experiencing pain or discomfort. A little residual numbing cream isn't going to knock out his butthole in that way. It will, however, though, maybe give him a little bit of tingle hole. And if he doesn't know why that's happening in the moment, it might throw him out of it. He might call off the sex or stop the sex or just not be present for the sex because he's feeling it in a way he doesn't usually feel it because of the numbing cream that you're using or mixing with the lubricant you're using or indeed using as a lubricant. So as a courtesy to our guests, I think you should tell the guy. Now, if having to tell the guy that you've had some premature ejaculation problems and some performance anxiety related to the premature ejaculation is going to make you feel like he's just waiting for you to fail or pull you out of the moment, you can tell him that you're using lube that has a little bit of, menthol in it or whatever it is those tingle hole lubes have in them, because it's your preference and you like it and you like how it makes your dick feel and you hope and expect and believe he'll like how it makes his hole feel too. It's a little bit of half the truth there. Hey, I'm using this numbing cream or I'm using this lube that's a little tingle holy because I like it, because it doesn't put in the center of his head that, there's this ongoing problem with your dick that you're trying to find a good and viable workaround for. But it isn't full disclosure, but I think it's disclosure enough. I don't know about you. Actually, I do know about you. I know a lot about you guys. You talk to me all the time. If you're like me, you've been seeking comfort wherever you can find it. Thank goodness we have our Helix mattress, actually Helix mattresses in the primary bedroom and the guest bedroom too at home. They're there to receive us every night. My Helix mattress is our sanctuary, and you should have one too. Helix Sleep is a premium mattress brand that provides tailored mattresses based on your unique sleep preferences. The Helix lineup offers 14 unique mattresses, including a collection of luxury models, a mattress for big and tall sleepers, and even a mattress made just for kids. Everybody is unique and everybody sleeps differently. That's why Helix has several different mattress models to choose from, each designed for specific sleep positions and feel preferences. They have models with memory foam layers to provide optimal pressure relief if you sleep on your side, models with a more responsive foam to cradle your body for essential support in stomach and back sleeping positions, plus, and I love these, enhanced cooling features to keep you from overheating at night. And if your spine needs some extra TLC, they got you. Every Helix mattress has a hybrid design, combining individually wrapped steel coils in the base with premium foam layers on top. It's the perfect combination of comfort and support. I took the Helix Sleep Quiz and I was matched with a Midnight Luxe mattress because I wanted something that has medium firmness, and Terry and I both tend to move around a lot at night. I don't even want to remember our old mattresses, good riddance to them. Not only is our Helix mattress the best I've ever slept on, but the setup was fast and easy. Helix mattresses are delivered in a box straight to your door for free. Plus, Helix mattresses are American made and come with a 10 to 15 year warranty depending on the model. And you get to try it out for 100 nights risk-free. If you don't love it, and I know you will, but if you don't, they will pick it up and give you a full refund. Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners. Go to helixsleep.com/savage. That's helixsleep.com/savage. Let them know the Lovecast sent you. With Helix, better sleep starts now.
Hi, Dan. I had a question for you about butts, specifically douching and bidets, which is that I recently got a little bidet attachment for my toilet at home. And in trying to get used to using it, I've discovered that the pressure that it seems like I need to get myself clean, if there's any leftover residue after pooping, is enough that it goes up my butt, and I realize that I'm sort of like douching myself. And I know you've talked about that it's possible to overdouche, and I'm wondering, like, should I not be doing this? Especially, you know, if I poop once a day and I end up, like, douching once a day, is that too much? Should I be, like, holding my sphincter closed while I do this so I don't get any water up there? Also, if your listeners have any advice on, like, how to make sure you actually get clean and not shoot the water straight up your butt, because I feel like the pressure that I need to do anything is kind of intense. Not really sure what's going on with other people's butts or my butt, but yeah, I would love some advice on how to, like, properly use my bidet.
When you take a poop, you have to relax your sphincters, obviously, to let the poop out. And if you hit it with the stream from your bidet right after, immediately after you let that poop out, yeah, you can shoot that stream right into your rectal cavity. Now, when we talk about people overdouching, usually it's in reference to people who are giving themselves enema, who are doing a kind of deep douche. And that can be problematic. It can interfere with your body's ability to eliminate waste on its own schedule, naturally, to have natural, regular bowel movements if you're doing the kind of deep enema that floods the shit out of the zone, if you know what I mean. But if you're just getting a little bit of the stream of water from a bidet attachment into your rectal cavity just inside because your sphincters are relaxed, you're not going to harm yourself. You will be fine. If the sensation is unpleasant, you might want to invest in a bidet with an adjustable stream. You know, one of the more expensive models, so you can adjust the intensity of the stream, and then every time you have a bowel movement and want to use your bidet attachment, you won't be flooding the zone. You won't be punching yourself in the guts.
Hey, Dan. I'm actually calling for a friend of mine. We have a question that Google just can't answer for us. 2 reasons. We don't want to ask Google, and I guess we don't want that history showing up for future purposes. Either way, we feel safe with you and your podcast that airs literally everywhere. Okay, to the question. We have questions about poop kinks, fecal kinks. We don't know what the proper term is. We're going to giggle like third graders because poop. But honestly, in all reality, I have a friend who is seeing somebody who is into it. He wants to see pictures. He wants to be close to her while she's pooping. Is that a first date, second date, third date? When do you allow whenever you feel comfortable, that type of thing? And that's kind of what I told her. But is there a proper etiquette for, and how do you even approach it? Like, are we crazy to even be talking about this? Bottom line is, I guess to get to the bottom of what we're asking is, what's the best place to start feeling comfortable with this kink? And is there a sexy poop?
Comfortable with this kink? I'm not even comfortable with this call. I'm happy to answer your question, but I've always regarded shit, scat, as a fetish too far. It's my go-to example of a thing that it's not reasonable to expect even a GGG partner to indulge you in. Remember, good giving in game, good in bed, giving of equal pleasure, and sometimes giving of pleasure without an expectation of immediate return, and game for anything within reason. And I think shit play, wanting to see pictures of somebody's shit, wanting them to shit on you, wanting to handle shit or be near them while they're shitting. Yeah, I don't think that's a reasonable ask. The internet was invented for lots of reasons. I think one of those reasons was to help people with really niche sexual interests to find others who share their sexual interests. Now, some niche sexual interests are easily indulged by a partner who isn't necessarily into it, other than the pleasure it might give their partner to indulge them in it. But others are so extreme. Others are so subject to a taboo that most of us have about whatever it is or whatever it might be, or shit in this case, that it's just not reasonable to expect somebody who isn't into it to be able to go there. Now, your friend seems at least willing to indulge this guy that she's interested in to some extent. If she wants to go there, she can go there and she can do that for him. I don't know what my advice would be. Like, how do you tiptoe up to it? Well, you've either shit on or near someone or you haven't. So if she's wants to go for it and he just wants to stand there in the bathroom and watch her take a crap, then let him stand there in the bathroom and watch her take a crap. I would be interested, is this the nose of the camel under the tent? Is this the beginning of the poop-related asks? Ultimately, what is it when it comes to shit play that he's interested in? Is he interested in handling it, smearing it, eating it, in her handling his, smearing his, eating his? What is she willing to do? Because my hunch is there will be more asks. And when it comes to, super niche sexual interests that men often are likelier to have than women, all the internet searches in the world aren't necessarily going to find a partner for each person with this very specific, very unique, niche sexual interest, or a sex worker who's willing to indulge that niche sexual interest. So some people with crazy, off-the-wall, I would think unreasonable ask kind of sexual interests may have to, if they want some sense of or some reality of sexual fulfillment, may have to ask a person who they didn't meet on a scat-specific internet hookup site if they might be willing to go there or indulge them. And this guy asked, and your friend was willing to at least consider it. So maybe he hit the scat jackpot here, and he was right to ask, or he, asked 10,000 women and finally asked the one who was willing to say yes, or willing to say maybe, or willing to think about it, talk about it with a girlfriend who would then call my show and force me to talk about it and think about it. Good luck. All right, before we get to this week's listener response calls, let's read some listener tweets. Bry the Gooner tweets, honestly, the more I listen to Fake Dan Savage's Savage Lovecast, the more I have to give Dan kudos for being able to navigate the minefield that is living in 2022. Canceling a Magnum subscription just because Dan correctly guessed birth sex? Wild. Thank you, Bry, for the kudos, and it seemed like an overreaction to me too. I mean, I didn't guess that callers assigned sex at birth as a parlor trick. I did it because it seemed relevant to the caller's question. And that caller not only didn't mind, but they thought my advice was helpful and spot on. About our latest episode of Sex and Politics, our bonus podcast for Magnum Savage Lovecast subscribers, featuring author and activist Cory Doctorow in this installment, Bill Dauphin tweets, great episode, and I'm convinced carbohydrates and masturbation has to be the title of Dan's next book. Lynn Heisel adds, please make this podcast, The Sex and Politics with Cory Doctorow, publicly available, except for the last 7 minutes, so I can share it with my family. So much important information, especially about Biden and Dem accomplishments. Well, even if we were to make that episode public, we can't do custom edits of S&P episodes or Lovecast episodes for that matter. How about instead you pop for a $5 1-month gift Magnum subscription for your family and tell them to skip the last 7 minutes of that S&P with Cory Doctorow. And finally, another suggestion for an alternative to In Your Guts, You Know They're Nuts. This one from Peebo420. In your anus, you know they're heinous. I'm not sure about that one. We know things in our guts. Do we really know things in our anuses? Do anuses know things? Mine has seen some things, but mine doesn't retain much, thanks to flared bases and a fiber-rich diet. All right, if you want me to read your tweet on an upcoming episode of the Savage Lovecast, be sure to use the hashtag Savage Lovecast. And a big thank you to everyone who posted to your social media accounts about the show last week, and everyone who's going to post about the show to your social media accounts this week. It helps spread the word about the Lovecast, and we appreciate it so much. And now, listener response calls.
Hey, Dan. This is for the caller on episode 833 with the autistic husband or boyfriend who made the pros and cons list, and she wanted to, I guess, be a better partner to him and show interest in his interest. As somebody on the spectrum, my advice would be, you don't have to dive headfirst into his interest. Sounds like he's into video games. Just so much as being present while he's enjoying his interest goes a really long way. My big interests are cars and a very specific type of hip-hop. And my girlfriend is not a car person. She's not big into rap, but she will ride around with me in the car and listen to my music, and she's not going to like all of it, but she's present. She'll pick out the couple songs she does like, and then I know to play them more because she'll enjoy them and we can enjoy them together. She'll go with me to car shows. She doesn't love cars, but she can pick out the car with the pretty colors that she likes, and it's something she shows interest in my hobbies and my interests, even if she's not becoming an expert in them. Just being present goes a really long way, especially to somebody on the spectrum. If your boyfriend or husband likes video games, just sit and read a book while he plays. Look up and ask about a character. Ask if there's any games you can play with him. Little stuff like that goes a really, really long way, even though if it doesn't feel like it.
Hi, this is a call in response to episode 833 and the guy who was getting his teaching certification and subbing and wanted to know what to do about hate speech in the classroom. Dan's response was right on. I've been teaching for 22 years now, and you almost never get some kind of an epiphany or a come to Jesus moment right away in the classroom. It's not until years later, sometimes, that you'll find when a student reaches out to you that you had some kind of a positive impact on him. So I agree with Dan. Be an example. Make sure that you are very clear that that type of behavior, that type of speech is not going to be tolerated in your classroom.
This is a comment for the guy who has a fin sub who approached him randomly to send him money. Of course, your advice was good, Dan, but you forgot to say 99% of these are scams. There are real fin subs out there, but you need to Google sugar daddy scam, and that covers it. The $100 might be fake. It might be from another money mule who's also a victim, or it might be real, and they're playing the long game. When they ask you for money, you started to trust them because, hey, he sent me $100. Most people will not send random strangers money for nothing, although it does exist. It's rare, mostly scams. Look on Reddit scams to learn more.
And we're going to leave it there. Got a question for next week's Lovecast or something to say about something I said on this week's Lovecast? Record your question or your comment using the voice memo app on your phone and email it to us at voicemail@savagelovecast.com. Or you can call us old school, Ma Bell style, at 206-302-2064. The Hump 2022 tour wraps up in Portland, Oregon with a final screening of this year's amazing collection of films at Revolution Hall next Wednesday, October 26th. Get your tickets now at humpfilmfest.com. And if being in Hump, if being up there on the silver screen is something you've always wanted to do, it's time to give into that temptation. Entering Hump is easy and it's free. There's no charge to enter Hump. And Hump filmmakers get a share of every ticket sold. Go to humpfilmfest.com/submit for all the info you need to get your film and your butt into Hump 2023. The holidays are coming up fast. Get Savage Love mugs or t-shirts for all the Lovecast fans on your list at savage.love/shop. Follow me on Twitter at FakeDanSavage. Follow Plan C Pills on Instagram at Plan C Pills. And fuck with the tech savvy at-risk youth on Twitter at Lovecast, TSARY. The Savage Lovecast is produced every week by Nancy Hartunian and me and the tech savvy at-risk youth and Nancy. We will all be back at you next week with another installment of the Savage Lovecast. Thank you for downloading.